All right, folks, our next presentation will be from Dr. Dean Lloyd and, Dr. Dean Lloyd and Am Rosen. So please do stand by, bringing them live now. Take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you, Gary. Gary, thank you, but I'm getting an echo in the feedback. Everything I'm saying and you're saying is being repeated. Can you hear that?
Any chance you're listening to the broadcast on another source? Because
you know what, that might be it. Thank you.
Yeah, because
I'm very sorry.
I got a lot of buttons here, and I'm pretty sure I'm not feeding your audio back to you.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate that. Hello, everybody, and my name is Am Rosen, and among the many things I do for people, I'm a facilitator of the evolutionary unfoldment of human potential. And it's been interesting listening to the United We Strike Marathon. A lot of interesting points are brought up. It struck me, I was thinking of, in listening to an old I Ching quote, that if you brand evil, it becomes strong in thinking up weapons to fight you with. Now, if we take the word evil out and we put in the word ignorance, you get a much more functional way of looking at this. In our last show that Dr. Lloyd and I did on our State of Mind, Quality of Life broadcast, it was called Springing Forward. After all, this is the time of renewal, and we got back into the metabolic nuts and bolts of cleansing the body and what's involved coming out of the winter, how the body responds. There's two sides to that, and I know that Dean is anxious to share some experiences and insights he has about cleansing the body. But I want to take a moment and talk about maybe a little spring cleaning for the mind. You're either going to where you want to go, or you're getting rid of what's in the way of where you want to go. So nothing becomes negative. When you're constantly fighting against the problem, and you need to, that's what's in the way, all the human screw-ups, the confusion that's permeating society right now, you have to, you're attached to it. The more you fight it, the more you give it credence and relevance. When you move towards a more expansive, inclusive, integrated way of looking at things, well, sure, these things that are not working for you, or they're obsolete, or they never worked, will come up. But they're just something to be pushed out of the way, discarded, understood why they were there in the first place, so that you can move on. There's a lot of short-sighted, expedient compromises that are running things. But if you take a little historical perspective, this is the same nonsense that's been going on since we first emerged into social units at a tribal level. The strong person, whether it's physical strength or brain power strength, wants to run things, wants to control. Why? Because they're afraid. They have gotten into a position they like. It brings them certain prestige, certain access, but they don't really understand. All they know is they have to maintain the position. Every system that comes into being becomes bogged down in its own bureaucracy. In the medieval period, keep them ignorant, and you have to keep repeating the slogans we tell you. Right now, it's the same thing, but the advancement of our technology brings more power onto line. Power has no intention of its own. It's not good, it's not bad, it's not right, it's not wrong. It strictly depends on the quality of the intelligence that uses it. No system, no technique, no methodology can work any better than the quality of intelligence. But I think what needs to be distinguished at this point is the difference between intelligence and intellectual comprehension. You might have heard me say there's a lot of overeducated dummies walking around. In their particular discipline, they're developed enough to have assimilated a technique, a way of looking at things, a way of patterning, and they may perform absolutely brilliant within their particular discipline. But they're not integrated as whole people. Why, against our reason, desire, and better judgment, do we keep trashing ourselves? One of the things I want to make you aware of And I don't make you aware of things I don't have the means to resolve. So I'm not guessing about any of this. But this is a new way of looking at it. The more the intellect develops, see, the intellect isn't running the show on the planet, whether it's the 300 that have been mentioned in their little cabal, or whether it's everybody walking around. Right now, people are dominated by the irrationality of their subconscious. The intellect is the ability to reference through form and function, through symbols representing form and function, a relationship, whether that relationship is to how well I should brush my teeth or the social dynamics of a global society. The intellect gives you a place to look, and you can come up with brilliant ideas. This is the way I'd like it to be. We want to get rid of this. But even though you're thinking it and trying to discipline or force everything into a particular way of being, it doesn't mean that's where you're operating from. Feelings form before the intellect. No matter what you think or avoid thinking, feelings affect the physiology. What you do to your feelings affects your body and vice versa. But it all starts on an unconscious level and moves up through layers of consciousness. So if feelings dominate, and the basic feeling is survival of the self-image, I'm me, and there's a lot of fear caught up there, a lot of avoidance. You found ways of getting past things and moving through things. You can justify anything. I've heard people talk about where's the consciousness. Feelings have no right or wrong except what the conditioning is. Once you break that open and reunite, right now people think brilliant thoughts, but they don't feel that way. And both the personal body and the body politic bears the brunt of that. In order to change, the people in power are just as scared. They just have more of a way of holding on to things. There's also a lot of brilliant insights and techniques coming out. How will they be used? If left to the patterns we have been running on since primitive Stone Age times, you can see how they'll be used. So the first thing you have to ask yourself in this time of renewal is there fear, doubt, confusion, anxiety, guilt and shame in me? Yes, I can see that they're doing something dirty and rotten and they should be called out on it. Absolutely. But can you call yourself out? The reason most people don't is because, one, they don't know how to. And two, the reason that we back ourselves into these subconscious emotional corners is out of fear. All fear. No exception. All fear, doubt, confusion, and anxiety is a product of two things. One, no matter what whatever your consideration, you don't really understand it yet. You may have more facts and figures, better perspective than anybody else around. Like it or not, circumstances may demand that you have to go with what you know. But you only get into this emotional dark space, which most people are locked into to varying degrees, when you stop seeing it as a possibility to be explored and experimented with, and you start insisting this is true. You become hardened, coarsened, somewhat deadened inside. You don't want to look at anything that might make you wrong. So you toughen up. The easiest way to get out of this trap, whether you're in the upper levels of the food chain or you're just making it by on the food chain, is when you're not understanding. No matter what you think or believe or who you can convince what of, you have to admit to yourself, something here I don't yet really understand. As I said, you may have more facts and figures, better perspective. Then you have to say, well, if what I have isn't an understanding, what's missing? What haven't I seen yet? You come off of that pedestal of self-justification. You start to become open, receptive. That's where you can see what's going on. Now, to catch these tendencies in ourselves, because there is fear in there, and the fear starts at a very deep-seated level. What I want to tell you about spring cleaning is that everybody on this planet could right now be liberated from being pushed around by the vagaries, the irrational, illogical, unreasonable vagaries of their subconscious. They could reharness the subconscious to both facilitate the body and to feed their intellect so there'd be a flow-through. And that would change a lot of perspectives. But right now, the people playing off of your fears and weaknesses, they couldn't play off of them if they weren't there. Okay, just wanted to bring up a few points. God, I could go on this forever, but Dean, I think you wanted to cover some of the physical side of spring cleaning here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Am. Beautiful. Spring up, open up, access the deep. I just recently got off of a fast, and I do this as Am does as well. Every spring equinox and every fall equinox, I go on a cleanse. It sometimes varies from 7 to 10 days. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because on the physical level, we are, as obvious as it may seem to most of you, being bombarded by pollutants that need to be addressed. And the only way that we're going to be able to reestablish some homeostasis or balance in our life is by cleaning house. And when I do this, it's a matter of cleaning out the mind from all obstacles. In other words, I ask myself when I'm not eating, I'm drinking water, and I do take a protein shake that has no other foodstuffs in it, but it keeps my muscle tone up while I'm going slowly into ketosis, which is burning up the fat. And the challenges that come up for me are those that are not just physical, the hunger feeling, the challenges of being colder when you're not burning up fuel, but also what comes up in the mind. And what comes up in the mind is the subconscious challenges that you haven't dealt with yet. Those are the fears, those that Am is talking of. Those are the things you didn't understand about yourself. And this is the opportunity to expose them, a great opportunity, because you're more open to what those drains on your life force, your energy are. And when you access the deeper parts of your psyche, you're able to take challenges with a lot less of a drain on your body. In other words, whatever comes your way, whatever it may be from the outside world, whatever pressures are on you environmentally, whatever they are mentally, if you're not getting enough sleep, you've been challenged by, too much exposure to electromagnetic frequencies, anything that you are being drained by, you have the opportunity now to change the direction in which your body is responding to it. So this fasting is in the springtime is a very important time to open yourself up to what you're weak in. And remember, we're not talking just about fasting without supervision and knowledge of what your physical condition is before you go into this, because there are people that I've known who've done fasting or cleaning house in the spring, but they've caused some damage. They weren't doing this intelligently. They tried to will themselves through it, but they weren't understanding the practical application of how to fast intelligently and healthy. So we have ways of helping you through this. Dr. Rosen has his website. He's also a remarkable nutritional health consultant and naturopath. I myself have my own website. I'm an Oriental medical practitioner and also a naturopath. And so I follow guidelines that will enable you to get out of these stuck places. These detoxification methods can be refined to your specific needs. So I'm making a little bit of a plug for that because I don't want people to get the idea that just by fasting or doing a cleanse that you've accomplished all you've needed to. We need to support the brain's actions. You need to support the muscle activity and be aware with people who've gone through this on what to expect. A big part of our ability to bounce back in our culture is preparing our body for what's coming and what we've been exposed to. And that's what we do at our radio shows. We do that on the physical level. We talk about this, and also we cover the consciousness piece, which most doctors aren't either able to respond to or integrated themselves, as I'm speaking of, so that they're able to offer you these insights and tools. So I wanted to provide that little foundation for us this particular time of year, the springtime, that we should clean house. We need to prepare ourselves for a wonderful summer ahead of us, right? Whatever we're growing and looking forward to. Years ago, Emma told me he reads cookbooks when he fasts. And I've sort of adopted that too. I've by the time I'm ready to eat, in several days into the fast, I'm reading these books. You can bet I am so ready. I know what to buy, what to cook, how to prepare it, and I'm more so ready by the time I eat. But it's interesting. You lose a desire for food after a certain point. After you get past the second day or third day, it's typically the hardest for me. I don't get quite as hungry. And that's sort of a lesson. If we're seduced by these negative, how should we say, the media attention to the negative parts of our world's economy, the war situation, the environment, we're not going to be prepared enough to take on the challenges that we need to meet. And that was one of my spring pep talks, if you will. But I wanted to get that out there so people are not thinking that they won't have the ability to clean house and be prepared without some guidance. Am?
Thank you, Dean. Nice. I feel peppier already.
Right on.
As I said, you're either getting rid of what's in the way of where you want to go or you're moving towards it. Okay? Physical vitality, which comes off of the integrity, the balanced integrity of your metabolic system, feeds your mental energy. If your body is deficient at any level and you have to waste your time and energy trying to force your body, will it to perform at the level you want to, that exhausts your mental space and it doesn't do much for the physical. So the mind becomes tighter and tighter, the body becomes slacker and slacker, not much joy. When the physical vitality is really strong, it feeds the mental activity. You have a surplus, more than enough vitality to handle all the needs of the day. That leaves you clearer to think. When you can intellectually formulate what you need to get done, what's the best way to do it, and you do it with energy to spare, that leaves you free to move into what's called the creative or the transcendent realm, where you go beyond the normal patterns that you're locked into. Now, as I said, the reason when you're asking somebody to become more intimate, especially with themselves, with the workings of their body, their own mind, there's a lot of fear there. There's reasons we run away, all of which can be easily dissipated. However, if you realize that anything that in any degree causes you any form of anxiety, if you realize it's because there's something here I'm not understanding, then you stop fighting yourself. I like to tell people you can't be wrong if you don't have to be right. If we could remember what we all are, we're all students of life, students of our unfolding potential. You may be a teacher of millions of other people, great, but you're always a student of your own process. And as a student, you can come up with ideas. I think if I combine my energy with your energy in this way, under these circumstances, for this reason, possibly we could achieve such and such. But I don't know if that's true. But I haven't said it's a truth. I've said it's a range of motion to be explored and experimented with. As I said, there's a difference between intellectual comprehension and intelligence. Intelligence is being able to look at all the variables in a given situation that you're considering, see how they all are constructed, how they can interact with each other, and what, according to what you need, is the best way to access them. It's one thing to not feel bad. It's another thing to find out how good you can feel. As you bring the body online, free up the mind, you move into a creative realm. What's available to you? There's a lot of good science out there. It can be scary if it's misused. Anything can be misused. But it opens up a lot. The problem is the people running the show don't have the creative vision right now to see how to make it work better. They only know how to hold on to the containment field. We need to help them with their fears by helping ourselves, by becoming better consumers, by not being able to be pushed around or scared off, but being in a position to so clearly understand what we need individually and in whatever collective groups we operate, that we can demand the kind of goods and services that will actually fulfill our needs. That is getting the marketplace to shift, because somebody will always come by and say, you'll spend money on that? Great. Then we'll spend money on the things that make us healthier, stronger, smarter, and facilitate our lives, not the things that play off of our fear, keep us sick and down. But understand, it's a madcap scramble that's happened in the past century. The technology has pushed everything very quickly ahead. Intellectually, we're brilliant. Emotionally, we're still stuck operating from primitive patterns. This is what we need to clean out. This is what needs to be resolved for us to really be able to take advantage of what's available to us and really enjoy and fulfill our potential. Dean, do you want to jump back in?
Yes. And our way is, a big part of it now, is to offer the tools through our radio show. That's the State of Mind, Quality of Life radio show. And that's aired, if you go to either AM's website, we'll give you that information, or mine at the end of the segment. Our job is to empower you and to speak to where you're at. We cover the topics on sexuality. We cover the topics on consciousness. We talk about the cleansing process like we were talking about today. But we cover these topics because it's inclusive. It's including all these different levels. Most people are not quite really realizing what to do about the over-medicated world right now. We have answers for that. We also are going to be discussing in a future show on what is it that is going on with recreational drugs. How do they affect you? Where does it affect you consciously? We're going to be discussing that. We're also going to be talking about the advances in science that most people aren't sure how to use. And also, what are the effects of the changes in our body structure because of exposure to challenges like frequencies and chemicals in our water and so on. So be prepared for some really good information that's going to be coming from us in our shows. We want to take your questions. If you wanted to, Am, did you want to give out some information about you and your show?
Sure, thank you. Well, and Dean, you're saying it beautifully. If you're interested, now my website, which is www.lifegame, like the game of life, lifegame.com, is kind of eclectic. You'll find some sample passages from my various books, a couple of my books. You'll find a podcast library I've started on health, on consciousness, on the art of intimacy. Of course, as Dean mentioned, you'll find our State of Mind, Quality of Life broadcasts. I also have put together a process, something I hope to make available to the professional community, because it could short-circuit a lot of this nonsense. You'll find it outlined on the accordion section on the homepage, and also I call your attention to the Geigers. 3 ways, psychologically foolproof ways, of gauging where you're at so you never get lost and you know how to start to move yourself out of the spaces you've gotten stuck in. There's so much more. We want to, as Dean said, empower you, facilitate you. We know what people will do when they're stuck in these patterns. We would like to find out what you'll do when you feel really inwardly secure, not because you've sold yourself a bill of goods, but you have access. Your security comes from understanding how to control your mind, access it at will, your senses, your feelings, your thoughts, and beyond. Not repress, not escape. When you can do that, you play for all you're worth. If not, you know how to take your space, Think of what it's like not to waste your vitality, not to have your mental patterns stuck in occluded and wraparound cycles, what that would mean to the quality of your life and what that would leave you free to open up to. Dean, please give your information.
Excellent. It's www.acutone.com, and there you will find my book information. I wrote a book that describes how frequencies affect us in the world. Its foundation is in Oriental medicine, and it's related to medicine in our modern world, our music, our ability to understand these frequencies and how they interrelate into our physiology. I've done a lot of work with this, and that's in acutone.com. You'll find also my clinic information and the radio show links that are archived. The links are right there for you easily. And we also would love to have your questions, and that email you want to send it to is acutone@acutone.com. That's the easiest, most effective way. Or if you go to the Wolf Spirit radio chat room, you can, while we're giving our show, you can ask the questions there. And that's the first Friday of every month at 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Well, I'll tell you, you guys managed to use every second I had allocated for you. That is the mark of true professionalism.
Waste not, want not, Gary.
Am Rosen and Dean, I really do appreciate it. One more time, those websites.
Mine is www.lifegame.com, and there is email contact information if you have any questions or comments.
And Dean's is acutone.com. That's acutone.com. We had a little bit of drop from Dean occasionally. I hope it wasn't too bad for the audience, but I want to thank you, gentlemen, very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Gary. All the best.
Always a pleasure. Take care now.
You too.
Alrighty, I hope you folks enjoyed that presentation. I hope you'll look to their websites for whatever additional information might be available there. I'm going to take you out with the theme from the upcoming movie, The Hobbit.